guys, thank you so much for tuning in today. I have a very special show planned for you all. As you can see, I'm joined by three beautiful ladies, and all three of these ladies are my sorors. As you all know, I'm a proud member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. So I want to welcome Rebecca Reed, or Rebecca, I'm not going to do last names, but I guess you all see it on the screen. Rebecca, Leslie, and we have Lisa. And all three of these ladies are not only teachers, but they also represent Detroit Public Schools here in Michigan. And as you all know, we are gearing up for back to school in this pandemic environment and all trying to really figure things out. And I also want to say that Leslie too, right here, I'm looking on my screen down below. Leslie right here is also a Southfield School Board trustee. So she's also a school board member here in Southfield. So lots of different perspectives. Again, these ladies also are all parents and, you know, really just trying to juggle it all. So I'm really excited to get their perspective. I've talked a lot on my channel about my feelings and kind of the parent perspective, but today's show is really about the teacher's perspective today. So welcome, ladies.
Thanks for having us. Yes.
So I just want to dive in. Like I said, you know, earlier, first of all, thank you so much for being here because I know we are all juggling these kids. Leslie, like myself, has practically a newborn. I mean, you know, they're not newborns anymore, but they're still our babies, like not even one, right? So well, her daughter is one, but, you know, little ones. So we're all just trying to really juggle it all. But I want to just jump in. And I guess I'm going to start with you, Rebecca, and we're going to just kind of go around because I want you all to have time to talk.
Okay.
Right now, how do you feel? You know, we have this whole return to learn plan, and the plan basically is, in our state, the intention is that kids will go back to school pretty much, but you do have the option to, as parents, we have the option to virtually learn or send our kids back to school. Rebecca, tell me just how are you feeling about this plan? Maybe you could talk a little bit about how it's affecting you and just kind of your thoughts about it. Just, you know, initially, we just found out about this on Friday.
Right. I honestly I'm not very comfortable with the whole face-to-face right now. We still have a lot of cases. We still have deaths. We're still unsure of exactly how this virus moves about, how it affects children, how it affects adults, all of that. And I think right now we go back, well, in DPS, we go back August 31st, but I think it's still premature to say either or right now because this thing changes daily. So you never know what's going to happen. So as a teacher and as a parent, I don't feel fully confident allowing my children to go back to school right now.
And then, so the next question is how are you gonna, you know, how will you manage things like if they, you know what I mean? Because you're still teaching and then with your kids. So if that doesn't happen, you'll just all be
together, right? And we pretty much did that from March to June. Luckily, I have teenagers. So pretty much they were on their own. If they needed some help, I could help them. Being that I'm a kindergarten teacher, though, on my end, it was very difficult getting the younger children on. They don't have the tech skills. I mean, they can play games and stuff like that, but they don't have the tech skills and the vocabulary, they can't read. I mean, you know, to have to be able to put these passwords in, to know how to get on something without parental support. And that was the big problem that I saw being a teacher, that the parents weren't supporting the children enough to just get on the computer and join our team's meetings or something. That was difficult. But as far as my children, like I said, they were teenagers, so they're able to maneuver all of that, you know. So I think when they talk about reopening plans, they need to talk to the teachers for one. I don't see all of that happening a lot of times, or even just the health professionals. And they need to do it by grade levels. You need the early L, you need the upper L, and then you need high school teams to work this out. Because what I do in kindergarten is going to look different for what Lisa does in special ed. It's going to look different for what Leslie does in her grade level, because we're all on different age groups and so forth, you know?
And I love how you pointed that out. Leslie, I want to go on next to you. How are you feeling about this whole plan? And you're right in here helping to make some of probably these decisions, or at least in the meetings, so let me know how you're feeling and what are some of your thoughts.
Yeah, so, well, okay. A lot to unpack, obviously, as we all have already talked about. And I think it's important in terms of dissecting this by the different school levels, which I'm glad Rebecca did bring up. I did get the opportunity to serve on one of the subcommittees that worked on the greater plan released by the state, by the governor's office. And so the area that I worked in was specific to special populations and equity. So making sure that across the board, the different needs and the different pockets of students across the state are able to get what they need. So in my situation, personally, obviously teaching in one district, school board and my children attend and have services through another district, looking at the different school levels, I'm devising a plan because I think what people need to consider is the legislation that was just recently approved that said face-to-face, or they're trying to push, I would say, mandated face-to-face learning for K-5. So the emphasis on that face-to-face for students in K-5 at the K-5 level it has a greater impact on parents and teachers who have to navigate those. My oldest daughter is in middle school, so I've already started talking with my village in terms of what would that look like, because she can have the option to have online, and that's really my preference for her, versus my newborn who was injured at birth, and so she received special needs services through the school district, which is going to take on a different look. So making sure that, and I teach in that K-5s, I teach fourth grade. So obviously what that means for me in particular is that I'll have to, if this legislation that was just recently passed in the House, if it goes through, I will have to leave the home and physically be in the classroom with my students, because I teach fourth grade, while my children are in the home, because I just absolutely don't feel comfortable with them going back into the building. And it's my personal prayer that I'm able to be home with them and teach virtually so that we're all together. But I know that with things moving the way they are and the decisions that are being made, that may not be a possibility. And so I'm coming up with a second plan for how do I make sure we all get what we need, and then I'm minimizing the risk that I'm putting my children in, and also protecting myself as well.
Wow, and that's so much to consider. It's almost like impossible. It almost seems like in some of these cases, like how are we going to manage? And, we say mental health, but is it just a buzzword? Lisa, I want to hear from you. Like, how are you feeling about the plan? Where are you at with it?
Okay, so first of all, Ebony, thank you so much for putting this together, because as I'm listening to you all, you are pointing out additional things to think about. And as Leslie was speaking, my heart is just doing like this, because it's like, wow, there's more things to consider. Mm-hmm. And then I also want to not just my initial thought, of course, was however you want to say it. But my initial thought is, of course, I echo what you said, Rebecca. I'm just not comfortable because there are too many what ifs. There's too many unanswered questions. But when I talk to a lot of educators, we want to go back. We're ready to get back into the swing of things. Even as a parent, I think about my daughter. My daughter takes dance at school. My son, he's part of the bucket band. I want them to go back because I'm ready for them to get back into the physical, activities. Again, as being an educator, I'm ready to go back because I do think that there are things that we can do, face to face that we cannot do virtually. However, that brings me to the point of being a special ed teacher, that the virtual learning is difficult depending on what classification student you have. So you got different levels of special ed. You have students that are autistic. My particular or specific population are students who are cognitive impaired. Autistic children, cognitive impaired children do not get diplomas, they get a certificate of completion. The criteria for them is a little bit different. The focus, of being able to get them back on track in the physical is easier versus when you have them virtually and they have the added distractions of what's going on in their family. They could be sitting in front of a window. What's going on, outside that window? So there's a lot of reasons why, of course, we are for schools reopening, but let's keep it real. We're going to go back to, is it premature? It's very premature. And I agree with you, Rebecca, as you say, either way, it's very premature to say you guys will go back August 31st. There's no answer. So I'm very uneasy about that. We're still hearing about deaths. We're still hearing a rise in numbers. We're also hearing that there are some people who are surviving through this. We still don't know what separates the survivors to the ones that succumb, to this virus. And, I have a college buddy right now. He's going through his second bout with, he's on a ventilator. He's struggling again, just as he was the first time. Now, remember, they talked about the antibodies, that once you get it, you build up these antibodies, and that was supposed to save you, or prevent you from catching it again. That was the speculation. Well, we now know that CDC put out something saying that that they're questioning the antibodies because, again, as I talked about my college buddy, he's on a ventilator again, and he's struggling, and no one really has any answers. Every couple of days somebody will keep us updated, like, yeah, he's still battling, keep him in prayer. So just a quick note, if you guys can keep him in prayer,
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. So that's where I stand right now. I think that there's something that really needs to be in place, more support, even if we do virtually. I'm all for it. If we do virtually, there has to be something that could keep the focus of the special needs, the K through 5. I agree with all of you, that it does need to be dissected and carefully thought about, and then there needs to, the division of size. There's a battle, I believe, that's going on between people who feel like we need to go back versus those who feel that it's not that we don't want to go back. We just want to make sure that we're going to be safe. And I have heard around that there are still issues with PPE. It's not supported. So that means you have districts who are going to be in a battle for for supplying, for having enough PPE.
Right.
And so we see that even in hospitals, based on where the hospital is located. So with schools.
Yes. And so that was one of the reasons why they changed. Remember they said, well, wear a mask. Then it was like, well, no, you don't really want to wear a mask. But the only reason why they say you don't really want to wear a mask is because they were concerned at the hospital. They didn't want us to take up the supply.
Yeah, mandate.
So, so there, it's a lot to think about. And I don't know if I answered all your questions specifically, but I'm just telling you, my head right now, I'm just like this. It's just,
that's how I feel. I feel the same way every night. I have a almost 1-year-old and a 6-year-old who, this would have been her first year, and I call it real school, but she has been in kindergarten at her school. But I've been staying up at night thinking about, okay, well, if this happens, what should I do? Maybe I need to do this. Who can I reach out to? Because I'm reaching out to the educators that I know. What are some things I can to support? Can I bring someone into the home? Can I pair up with other parents? I'm really trying to figure out, because I'm still working, and I know for my own sanity, I need a plan. And I want to talk to you about a few things, because obviously at the end of last year, I've been reading a lot of reports, and I'm just fascinated too about the lack of conversations around, still the social disparities, the socially economic disparities as it relates to technology gaps, or just like just the disparities that some districts may be experiencing that others might not, because we hear a lot from those other districts. So I want you all to share some of the things that you all found through doing this, through kind of the test period in the end of the year as it relates to the social disparities being in Detroit public schools that you feel like may not be being talked about.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, you know, right now they have where the children in DPS can go get a computer and they can get 6 months of internet.
Awesome.
But from what I'm gathering, they're having a problem of parents picking up the computers. I think the process in which they tried to do it was through emails, through the kids' emails and all this kind of stuff. I mean, if they already are having connection issues and stuff like that, why would you send it out through an email?
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I mean? But so they're trying to fix that. Now I know in Southfield, my kids go to Southfield schools. So as soon as the schools closed down, the children, well, each family had an opportunity to get one computer, which was fine, but I have 3 girls.
So wait.
And no free internet. You know, I mean, luckily we do have internet in our home, but yeah, every district is not offering the same thing. There are, you know, we have parents that still have to work during that time. So that's why I was saying, even with my kindergartners, if you don't have an adult or someone responsible enough to sit there with you to use that technology, then you're not going to be able to do it.
Mm-hmm. And are we taking for granted too that all parents just know how to use these tools so well? I think that's like a part too.
Yeah.
Like a lot of us, I was reading an article, I want to say it was in Forbes, honestly, and they were saying that, you know, a lot of people we take for granted only know how to use this now. Like they're not really into using like
all that extra stuff.
Yeah, all the extra stuff. And so I think that you know, and I read also somewhere that not even necessarily in inner cities, even in the suburbs, half the kids have dropped out. They dropped out due to maybe not always technology. I think a lot of it has to do with parents and working and things. But at whatever reason, there was a fallout.
They were unable. Yeah. So, and I think that the way it happened, it was unexpected. No one was prepared for it. You know, no one was prepared for virtual learning. You know, we have some things in place and of, you know, Google Classrooms and Microsoft Teams and this and that, but there was nothing in place, and it was no one's fault because we didn't know this was going to happen.
Yeah, exactly.
So, you know, there needed to be training, not just for the teachers, but even for the kids, because now they're at home and you're trying to explain to them how to get on to iReady on their own. Because in my classroom, we signed the kids on because they were young and trying to put in passwords and this and that. But then when they go home, now you got to do this new system. And like I said, it took me a moment to even get used to it. So, and that's by no one's fault. I mean, there was no way we knew we needed to be trained for that when it happened. So, that didn't give us a great start, you know?
Yeah. Anyone else want to talk about anything that you all noticed? Leslie or Lisa want to weigh in on?
Yeah, so I agree with the way that the rollout of these laptops has been very poor. And I recall, you know, even I would say amongst my school building, I was told that I had high participation and levels of engagement. And so what I tried to do was maximize the time that I had with the students, because I do have 4th graders, and many of them, I can empower them and educate them a lot quicker than I can engage their families or pinpoint, you know, an adult that I can really connect with in terms of just walking them through the steps. And so I tried to maximize that time. But unfortunately, what I found was during the time that I had them, because I wasn't working summer school, I'm not working summer school, there were systems that were not ready for rollout. So it was kind of like by the time I was releasing them, because it was the end of the school, technically the school year, I was still pretty much kind of hanging on. And even now, I still get text messages and phone calls sometimes from some of my parents saying, hey, you know, Mrs. Thomas, can you help me with this? Or can you help me with that? And so at this point, now I'm more so handing off. Whereas when I was in a position to really be hands-on and to guide them, the systems were not ready. And I think that's very unfortunate. you know, that happened that way. But also, I think something that, you know, I'm glad that you mentioned it, Ebony, that you know, you're looking at, you know, who can you bring into the home and what parents can you connect with. I think right now, and I don't want to sound insensitive because I'm definitely not, but of course that mental health piece is huge in how people are processing and able to say, you know what, let me step back. Let me not be so overwhelmed, and let me try and take this one step at a time. I think that this time could have definitely served as, and it still can, a time of really teaching resilience and grit to our students and to our children, because they're watching the adults. And if you're shutting down in a huge mess, you know, they're going to follow suit. As opposed to being creative. And I think what happens is, you talk about the disparities, this really becomes a conversation of privilege, and resourcefulness as well, because those of us, I think it's probably fair to say that all of us sitting on this call, we either are in homes with multiple incomes, or we're amongst a community where we can go to our neighbor and we can call up someone, a sorority sister or a friend or a family member, and say, okay, you work on these days, I work on these days, this is the schedule that we're going to work out. And I think in other communities where there isn't that considered privilege, that those opportunities do exist as well. But then you start to move into that that resourcefulness. You know, if parents and even grandparents didn't have positive school experiences, they're even more detached from the schools when they need to draw near to figure out some workable solutions and some tangible solutions for getting them through. I think the first initial thought is, well, everything is crazy, it's a mess, it's too much, I'm just going to shut down. Whereas this is really the time to kind of dig in. And I always tell my daughter, you know, even if you're scared and nervous, do it anyway. Keep going. You have to keep going, even with tears in your eyes. I remember when Lauren was first born, and I would go to the neurologist, and they would tell me about, you know, her being paralyzed and things like that. And I would sit there with tears in my eyes, and they wanted to hold back what they were telling me. And I would tell them, no, I'm going to cry, but you need to give me all of the information so that I can know how to best help her. And I think when we talk about that mental health, we need to really consider that, yes, this is alarming. I mean, this is really traumatizing what we're going through, but we can't let this stagnate us from giving people the real information. And so when I worked on, you know, the committee, and even with my work on the school board, I always talk about clear and concise definitions and understandings for the roles that each person must play. I think we parents became very overwhelmed because they saw themselves replacing the teacher. But I think that's because that became the narrative, and it wasn't really anyone defining for them, saying, no, this is your role as a parent to set your child up. And then it was the job of the teacher to step in and say, this is my role as the teacher and the educator in the school, and this is what I'm going to do. But I think, you know, again, it all happened so fast, and everyone was really trying to scramble in, but we definitely should have done, even as a state, I would say, a better job of clearly defining the roles, so that it then kind of let people be at ease a little bit, and kind of, you know, take the edge off, so that they can tap into that creativity and come up with other resources for how do we work this out. But yeah, I think we're at the point where now that really has to be more of the conversation. Like, hey, snap out of it, cry if you need to, but we got to figure this out. So how can I help you, and how can you help me, and how can we put pieces together?
No, and I
think that's what.
Go ahead, Rebecca, please.
I was going to say, when you were talking to Leslie about the clear definitions of what everyone's role is, I think it did get a little messed up, where parents were thinking, oh, now I'm the teacher. And I think that's where a lot of the backlash is coming from, where, oh, if you don't want to teach, quit. There's so many negative things that people are saying about teachers, and that's not the case. We were here to support, we were here to teach, we were here to do our part. The parent had a job too, whatever that was, to get your child started. And we were here to do our job. And I think that needs to be stated all the way around. Like, okay, it's not just the parent's job to do the teaching. You know, that's not why we're here. That's not what virtual learning is. We're here to do our job and allow us to do that job. You know, that would help.
And I think it's so important that we focus on the mental health aspect of all of this. And I also think that it's not too late for our state to wheel out some better descriptions and things, because it was definitely missing. You know, I'm very involved in my district here. I'm on the PTA board and everything, and I was confused as ever with how everything was rolled out here in my district. I'm also a person who is pretty tech savvy, and I still had a lot of confusion, and I didn't know. And for me, again, at kindergarten, I mean, and I'm working from home, it was a lot. And but again, I'm a person who's very solution focused. I'm a person who really prefers clarity over confusion. So I just lean in. Like you said, I lean in as well, you know, into whatever the problem is. And I'm like, what is the solution going to be? Please hit that like and subscribe button too if you're watching right now. Go ahead, because I actually just wrapped up another video where that's what we're talking about. How are we going to create learning? What are some options? Can we do learning pods? Can we work with the teacher to develop a plan? Can we work with other parents in our kids' classrooms to help with our own mental health as parents? But I want to ask you all, because it's something that I've always... Oh yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No.
Okay. So yeah, you know, I'm listening and I'm taking in everything that you all are saying, and definitely I have to mimic this mental health because it's not just for the students, but this mental health right now, this is something that everyone is going through. You know, we're all,
that is so
like,
true.
I know that since all this stuff has started, I know that I have been full of anxiety. I have been trying to figure out ways to, you know, this is my sea moss smoothie, but I've been trying to figure out things that I can eat that will level out the anxiety. I know at one time there was talks about the mental health, because it's out there somewhere. They're talking about they've been trying to introduce things to address mental health more, but you know, like I said, those things, they come up and then, you know, sometimes they just go away. I like that you all talked about, you know, this village, just creating a village and start making plans. Like you said, you know, get into it. Start making plans, start speaking to other parents, you know, and trying to see how you all can support one another, because we don't know what this is going to look like in the fall. And I think it's very important that we address that. But when it first came out with distant learning, Governor Whitmer, I know that she had talked about wellness checks, or what did they say it was for, enrichment or something like that. And although we know we have to get back into the curriculum, with this virtual learning, there is going to have to be some form of wellness checks, because it's not over. You know, I know they want to get back into the curriculum, but let's keep it real. We can't like fully 100% dive into the curriculum. And so speaking about the laptops that were awarded, you know, to our students, there has been a lot of students who have not picked up their laptops. I volunteered. You know, that's another good thing to point out, because there was a lot of teachers who volunteered to assist with deployment. I'm happy to say that the school that I'm at, Osborne High School, I want to say 78% of our students picked up their laptops. But one of the things that the administrator did was to, like, she really reached out to the parents. So she didn't rely on just the way that the district, you know, rolled it out. And I agree, it should have been another way, like maybe
multiple ways.
Involve the attendance officers. You know, they could have, I don't even know if they put it on the news, but I'm like, they put everything else on the news. That would have been a good way, you know, to get that out. But she really, like, they did house visits. You know, it was Facebook. I love that. Wow. Tell your friend, tell your classmate, come get their computer. So she really pushed it. You know.
And I did see so many districts, a lot of districts, especially online, virtual, like teachers really going the extra mile, going to their students' homes. Yeah. And I think that's what it really takes, especially when you're in these communities where we all live in the same, you know, we're living not far from one another. But I want to continue on with your point, Lisa, about mental health. How can schools right now, because like I said, I'm at the point now where we can't really wait for it. What are some things you think, if you could talk directly to whoever you need to talk to, what are some things right now we can do to support kids, support families, support all of us as it relates to mental health, because I think honestly, and I spoke about this before, but it seems to me it needs to be implemented in all facets of learning right now, considering what we're going through. Can you all speak to that? I can start with you, Lisa, and then we can kind of go around, just any ideas?
I honestly think I'm a stickler for the word the village. That is just that's a motto I live by. We have to communicate, continue to communicate with the parents. We have to try to reach out. Even think about your family. I mean, we have kids in our family who are in our district. I have a ton of little cousins, who are in our district. So I've been, even with the computer deployment, I was calling, I'm going down the line. Did you get your, your laptops? Mm-hmm. So I think that just continuing to just research and communicate. And I think the days of, that's not in my job description. Mm-hmm. I think that doesn't exist anymore right now. It's out the window, and as you said, Leslie, earlier, I'm still, I keep my teams active because I got kids calling me left and right. They're doing the Grow Detroit Young Talent job. So I kind of monitor my kids who are in the Horatio Williams Foundation, his program, because, I just want to be there to support, when they need to call me, they call. So it's like right now we just have to kind of get out of our, get away from our
comfort zone. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you. We have to get out of our comfort zone
and think outside the box. Seriously,
outside the box, because this is different, And I think we need to stop. We need to stop attacking each other. I really think, and I don't care who it is. I don't have time to attack anyone. All I want to do, like you said, Ebony, I appreciate that you are solution based. Yes. And we just don't have time to attack people. I don't feel like, but this person is, and this is the last thing, you all, because I'm sorry, I could be very long-winded. But just that when you think, if you're the type of person you're always saying, well, why hasn't such and such did this? Well, why isn't, that might be your calling. Maybe you need to step up and do some things, So, stop asking why and just do some things. Research, you can research why.
This is a great time, and I love to say this, and it's a divine time, honestly. I mean, some of these things, we might have needed to go through this to get better, to see better on the other side. But, it's a time where we all can lean into those skill sets. What can grandma and grandpa do? What can the neighbor next door do? I think, and my heart goes out, to people who might not have family, or might be people, a lot of people have moved here, moved to a place and might not have a real network. Because that's a reality, or they might be a single parent without a real network. And so my heart goes out, but I would say, if you are on social media, there are some amazing mom groups to lean into, especially for Black women. You can specifically go to those specific mom groups and really just, create your network. I mean, it's a divine time where we do have these resources. Any other thoughts around as it relates to mental health?
Yeah, your village does not necessarily have to be your family, and I think sometimes people don't like to ask for help. They feel that they shouldn't have to, or it may make them look, like they're needy or something, but that's not the case. My parents are deceased, so my village is not technically my family, it's neighbors and friends and, stuff like that, that extended family that you have. And I think that, right?
Oh yeah.
Of course, the stores too. But I just think that we need to, as a community, come together better too and offer more help. The school districts need to offer more help. You're offering computers and things like that. Well, we need to also offer some type of help to the students, or we're doing the teams, the teachers are doing this. Well, some of these school psychologists and counselors might need to set some stuff up, or they might need to hook up with some kind of private company to help out. I just think we're in more need than ever. And not just the kids, the parents need help. Teachers, we need help. Everybody may not know exactly what everybody's going through. And there is not enough help out there, Yeah, we can go pick up some veggies and stuff like that, but sometimes what's going on in your mind takes over, and then what? You don't have anybody to turn to or any services that are available for you. And like you said, one of you guys said something about the state doing more to offer mental health awareness, what to look for, what numbers to call if you see someone in need, and maybe they're just not, they can't see it. You're on the outside. A lot of times people, when you're on the outside, you can see what's going on. What resources are there out there for us to help ourselves and to help each other?
Mm-hmm. And I think we're almost at a point where we need like built-in therapy in schools, like just like you would go to like gym class, like kids need to visit the therapist, like everywhere.
Right.
I know we have social workers for, and I know a lot of the schools took them out. I was in a school where they took my social worker away, and she was spread out.
Or they come one a day, half a day,
she was spread out amongst 8 schools in our school, charter school network. But at any rate, I think we're at that point. I think it's going to be incumbent upon teachers like you all and everyone else and parents to really advocate. Like, we want to see our kids really being serviced, because we need to go get service. So we all need, and I think that conversation needs to happen. Leslie, go ahead. You were going to say something.
Yeah, I think too, this is a great time that if you are skilled and passionate in this area, to really tap into your legislation, really tap into the lawmakers, especially as we look at phasing into this upcoming school year, particularly around teacher evaluations and student assessments. Those are really some buzzwords that I think and some issues that really create a lot of anxiety for teachers and a lot of pressure. And I think right now it's just not the time. We were talking about this in a forum I was speaking with recently about, do we still need to have assessments in this upcoming school year? I'm an advocate for them because of the data that they produce, but I do not support them being used to penalize anyone. So teachers' evaluations, especially in this upcoming year, should not, be, impacted by those assessments. But we absolutely are going to have to understand where the students are so that we can grow them. But then also, in addition to that academic piece, we need a mental check, right? That's what we talked about, wellness checks. I mean, really some type of, and more than just calling them on the phone saying, hey, are you okay? And them saying, yes, I'm fine. I mean, it really needs to be, really, an individualized assessment of where are your families, so that we do know, okay, these are the signs that they were showing, or this is likely what they're dealing with, or that we really put people in a safe space. I think, for the most part, during this time, parents were getting wellness checks, and they went from answering the phone saying, yeah, I'm fine, to not answering the phone, blocking the number because they felt overwhelmed by all the calls. And so then when you have that, you really have, you have an added barrier. So really trying to figure out some systems where we can not only assess the students in terms of where they are academically, not for penalty, but to grow them and to help support them, but then also assess where families are as a whole. And maybe for those communities where they don't really have the initiative to partner, kind of get those hubs. I remember Detroit Parent Network, and I don't know all the specifics of what their organization did, but organizations that kind of bring parents together and help connect and help match. Kind of some hubs where maybe if they have to do virtual, maybe it's in a space that kind of rotates. I don't know. I'm just kind of jumping off top of my head here, but really trying to figure out how to match parents to the resources that are needed. I think we need to figure out, like I said, if that's your passion and that's your skill set, really link up with the decision makers, link up with the legislators, and figure out how we can lessen the burden and the pressure and anxiety that's coming down from the state. And I think we'll find that anxiety will lessen, and that will really help the mental health state a lot. It'll bring us a lot further. Because I think for teachers, if you feel like, oh my gosh, I gotta do my job, or I could lose my job, you know, you're going to be up here on 10. And that's going to block your creativity, you know. And if you're a parent and you're like, the state is watching me and they're going to take my kids from me, or they're going to base the level of support that I get from the state assistance based on my child's engagement, you know, that really kind of puts a whole lot of unnecessary pressures.
And just to jump right in, we are in the state too where the whole grace situation is happening. So also there's that threat, like your kid could actually get locked up in the midst of all of this craziness, right?
You could get locked up, you know.
So hit the like and subscribe button too.
Yeah, so there's a lot, and I will say specifically, and I'll just kind of, I'll wrap up here, but there are some specific things that people can really look into when I talk about tapping into the state. There's a percentage, an attendance percentage that schools are held to that impacts funding. So reaching out, saying, hey, let's, you know, reach out to your local school district so to get a better understanding of what the specifics are, but just finding out how you can partner as a parent voice and as a teacher voice and say, hey, we want the best supports. So whatever the state needs to do to lessen, you know, the scrutiny, that's what we want to support, because we want to make sure that the schools are able to do their maximum job without the burden of the state looking in and saying, oh, we're gonna penalize you, we're gonna take your money away, we're gonna take your resources away if you don't do X, Y, Z, because that really does it adds to the pressures.
I have one question for all of you. So, you know, now with the DPS doing summer school, the judge has ordered for the kids to be tested. Now, in our original plan to go back for DPS, it was just the teachers to get tested. I don't want to know, how do you guys feel about that? Being a parent and a teacher, how do you feel that as a teacher, we're required to do it? They haven't said how often. We're supposed to have it done 14 days before we go back to school. But you see baseball players out here to get tested every 2 days because they want to make sure that they're not. Because I'm like, okay, so I get tested now, or the kids get tested now. They might get exposed to the virus tomorrow. And then 2 weeks later, now they have it. But how do you feel about that?
That's how I feel about it. That's how I feel about it.
That's exactly how I feel about it. That, you know, test me today, I'm infected tomorrow, and then
keep testing me.
You know, again, like I said, it's premature because again, everything is premature because again, and then so just talk about the kids that got who tested positive. Okay, who have they been around? Even the class. So that means everyone who was in that classroom, everyone who was in that hallway they walked through. It's time to go self-quarantine. You know,
the whole school then needs to quarantine.
Yeah, so it's like, you know, you can't stop.
What if they rode the bus? Then that means everybody on the bus. I mean, yeah.
You know, the bus is all
right. Again, but here's the problem. If it wasn't for the judge saying that they needed to get tested, those kids probably would still be in school. Because, I mean, a lot of times I know I would have kids with the stomach flu, whatever. Parents wouldn't pick them up. There was really nowhere to put them, you know, and they're like extremely sick. So here we are with a deadly disease, something that it seems invisible. I mean, it's crazy, but you were not going to test the kids. And now you have tested them, even though it was 2 right now. Who's to say that, okay, they were around those 2 kids. Who's next?
There's a third.
Oh, it's the third one now?
I believe there's a third.
So there's a 30th.
So who's next? Right.
There's a 30th.
Who's next?
300.
And I know it's a rough test. It's quick, but I personally I mean, I think the kids should be tested too. If you're not gonna test everybody, then don't test everybody. I mean, you know what I mean? That's just how I feel. I know it can be an invasive process. It is, and it's a catch-22 because you're like, I'm just thinking, if they had not tested those 2 kids probably would still be sitting in a room somewhere, and it just
spreading the virus
like wildfire. Yeah. So
isn't there there's a law or something that, you know, parents can opt out of? They can opt out of
like the vaccinations and stuff.
Yeah, they can opt out. So it's just like, I don't know.
I'm scared. I'm scared of that, to have kids in my room and not know, you know, it's like everybody has a question mark, an invisible question mark on their head. Like, Does this one have it? And being a kindergarten teacher, kids, they are on you all the time. And they snot and sneeze on you all the time too. You know,
those little kids are sick for like the first month anyways at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, so as a kindergarten teacher, I have already been the one to do all the extra cleaning, this and that, because custodians didn't always do it. But what happens now, or like they're supposed to work in groups, they share things. I mean, so now how do we do that?
Sharing is over.
Well, no, they said they can't, but I'm just saying as far as the learning environment, even the curriculum, the programs that they have, the EL in ELA for reading and everything, there's a lot of group work. There's a lot of working together. The first thing is about playing, you know? So how can, you know, I just think also the curriculum needs to change.
They're going to change it to imaginary. You have to imagine.
Oh, really? You know what? But I mean, that should be a concern already. Right. How do you teach the curriculum if now the kids pretend everything, right? Use your imagination. But how do we teach the curriculum, and especially with the lower kids? I mean, because I was even told, well, they can work on the computers, and if they have a question or something, they can type it in. Well, when I get kindergartners in the beginning of the year, most of them can't even write their name. So how are they going to type a question? You know, older kids can do that, you know? I just don't, it just hurts me because that's where my heart is. I've taught kindergarten for most of the years I've been teaching. I love it. My mother was a kindergarten teacher. It keeps me up at night as far as my job, and it hurts me because just seeing what happened between March and June, I felt so disconnected from my students, and I worry about that. You know, like how is that going to look in the fall? It's not high school. It's not 6th grade. You know, this is kindergarten. They're babies. They're just not getting there.
High school. It is some high school when you think about the.
No, it is.
Yeah. So you know, but yeah, I'm with you 100%. You know, I definitely agree.
I definitely feel you as a former kindergarten teacher and someone who has a kindergartner. And I felt so bad for her. Like, and that's why I'm all like, I'm just going to keep her virtual because I don't want her, like, her introduction to school to be like fear. I loved like my teachers at that age, and I want her to like love school, like not be like.
And here they walk in a room.
I'm scared to touch. I'm scared to do this. Like, or so-and-so.
Or they walk in a room with this lady with a mask and a shield, and you know, for a little one that age, when they go to the doctor's office, it's already bad enough. So now your teacher looks like a doctor, you know. That anxiety for them has to be a lot too. You know, they already cry the first day and stuff like that. Right. But now your teacher's behind the mask. You can't even see her smile. You can't even, you know, get that lovey feeling, you know, a hug just because, you know, you miss your mom, whatever. That just hurts me. And that really gets me in my like, I don't know.
We are doing so great on time, but I just realized like, wow, we've been really talking, and you all have been sharing like such amazing information. I know that so many people are going to connect with this, and we're all in this together, and we're all feeling all the feels of all of this. I definitely have to bring you all back, but I want to get in a few more questions before I let you all go. One of the things I want to know is, you know, with everything going on, like how do you all, I mean, because things are still uncertain to me, like the way, just based on this conversation, I can't see how it's going to look in the fall, how we really are going to go back. I don't see that. That's just me. I'm not trying to be negative, but I don't know. Maybe if I read something else this week, I'll feel differently, but as of this conversation and just my life, but how can we support you all better? You know, because it's been hard. I've been seeing, you know, I'm on social media, I see how people are trying to frame this, and some of people are looking at teachers like they're the problem. And I just want to say here, this is a safe space for teachers, this channel, they're not the problem. So how can our communities, how can parents, what can we do to support you all? Any advice, any suggestions?
I want to go back to, go ahead, Leslie, I'm sorry.
I would say the first thing is for parents to understand that teachers are not the decision makers. So to immediately place the blame and point the finger at the teachers, I think is very false, because, and it's just very inaccurate, because teachers, as I believe Rebecca was the one who mentioned it first, that, you know, she wished that the districts had tapped more into the teachers for input. And some districts, you know, across the state are doing things very different in terms of how they're getting their reaching out to their stakeholder groups. But teachers are not making the decisions. And just like Lisa said, teachers want to get in the class. I absolutely, if I have the option of teaching my fourth graders, I'm managing everybody's home, from the screen. That's taking a lot more time than me standing in front of them and giving them that teacher eye, and they know, hey, okay, let me snap out of it and get back engaged. And that's just one example, just to kind of, lighten it. But, we absolutely want to be with our students for a number of reasons. And teachers are just not making the decisions at the end of the day. So it really is just inaccurate for parents to place the blame on the teachers. I think the best thing that parents can do is connect with the teachers, because the teachers do care, and figure out how to draw closer to the school districts so that the parent voice is stronger, and the teachers can kind of help guide the message that the parents are sending. And I think that joining together in that way would create a stronger voice for the district, but then also for the district to then send their message to the state. Because the state, I think we have an amazing governor. I support the efforts that she has put forth and how she's trying to move about things in comparison to other states. But I think that one thing that I would say that I feel she's doing well is she is listening. But if there's not a message that's clear and concise and unified, then it makes it really hard to understand what direction we should be going in as a state.
Yeah.
I think you hear a lot of this do it for the kids type mentality, as far as it comes to being a teacher. We do it for the kids, but we also have a family. We also, yes, we have to have a roof over our head as well. And I think a lot of times it almost seems like what we do is just volunteer work. Like we shouldn't even get paid. Don't even ask for a raise. I like my job. I love what I do. I love teaching. I love to see their minds just go and when they're so inquisitive and making strides. I love that. But I have children that I have to feed as well. I mean, teaching is a job. It's not just that you're not doing it for the kids. We are, we love our students. Those are our kids. Those are my children, but I think people need to get out of that mentality of that. That's the only reason why we're here, that this is just, we're not here to get a paycheck. I mean, I'm not saying that's why I do it all. I mean, someone else who does a job and whatever, you still are doing it so you can put food on the table, but you may still love your job and do it well. And I think you can do that, and I think that's where we teachers need the support. We need the parents to answer the phone when we call, or if you can't, text back later. I still have parents that are texting, asking me questions about what's going on, this and that now. And they know I will get back to them as soon as possible. And whatever information I can give them, I will. I begged my parents the whole time to contact me whenever you need to about anything, and that I'm here for them if they have any questions about school or anything else, and not many of them took advantage of that. And like Leslie said, it became to a point like I was bugging them. And I told them, I said, I'm not here to bug you, report on you, or nothing like that. I'm here to help. And I think that's where a lot of people need to see that we are here to help. But we're humans, we're human beings too. We have families, we have a heart, we have feelings, we may have mental issues. We may need to talk to somebody too. I love that we're doing this now because, a lot of people don't understand that, and they don't want to hear our voice. They want to silence us because we're here to do it for the kids. So, yeah.
And let me add, we know that is not conclusive of all parents. We know
right.
that.
Oh, of course not.
Right. Yeah. And we know we have because I definitely want to give a shout out to a lot of parents that I have, but I do echo the sentiment of just being able to, get in contact with parents. And then I just want parents to feel, I want them to own I want them to understand that they have power, they have a voice, know what's going on inside your school. And even though we're virtually, get in contact with the administrator, get in contact with the teachers. Please understand that you are a stakeholder in that community. And you have the right to know what your child is doing. But I think somewhere along the line, there was a disconnect because, some schools haven't always been inviting as far as parents coming in, and so many things have been, or so many parents have been semi-turned away, by poor attitudes, depending on what school you went into. But I definitely want to push that. I really want parents to know and understand that you have a right, and this is not a battle invite or anything like that, but you have the right to know what's going on. You would have the right to know who your child is sitting in front of. Yes. And I think, get to know your teachers, like get to know the teachers. Like I listen, I'm Facebook friends with some of my parents, and these are some parents who their kids are not even, they graduated years ago, and I mean, I have a parent, she calls me for any and everything. If I can answer, I'll answer. If I can't, and when I think it's one of those things where we're going to be on the phone a long time, then I text her back. We just text, back and forth. But I definitely think that it's a matter of getting to know, like, we are human, like, and I have to, we're human. And I love my students. I love the school. I've been stuck there for since 2012. Well, I won't say stuck, but I've been there since 2012. And I'm just really not interested, in going anywhere else. So, it's kind of hard to break away when you've been there, because you get to know the kids. You see them, it's beautiful to see a child from the beginning to the end.
Right.
They graduate.
You get to know the families, and you might have some siblings. And
Yep. So it's just, it's a beautiful thing. And, from the state legislators, I think sometimes it's like, wow, were you hurt as a child? Like, where's this battle? Sometimes you feel there's a battle, like there's an attack, on teachers. And it's like, come on, we have to think logically,
I know.
And they're still doing virtual meetings. Like you're doing virtual meetings. So how come you haven't gone back face to face? You're doing a lot of things virtually. So I think that, if it's not good for you, and I believe that the president's son, his school has announced.
Barron is definitely going to be virtually learning. His name Barron.
Yeah. Hello. Yeah. Barron teacher, his teacher is doing it. Hello. Help us.
No, thank you so much. We have went over our hour, and I know that we have touched on so many important topics. And this is why I think this kind of dialogue, these kind of conversations are important. This is what I wasn't hearing when I turned on my news and my CNN at night. And I really wanted to hear from you all. And I thank you all for your transparency and for being so honest today. So thank you, Rebecca, Leslie, and Lisa.
You're welcome.
All three are my source. I will put their contact information down in the comments below. Lisa also has a YouTube channel, which is fantastic. So I will include that too in the description below. But thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe. And I will see you all next week. Thank you.